This is the Chinese scooter that my dad bought a couple years ago for my mom, with the anticipation that she would use it, get her license, and maybe actually start enjoying two-wheeled life. And that didn't happen. So my dad drove it himself. He used it as a commuter bike for a little while. And then he sold it to a coworker about 2 years ago, maybe. And he's owned it ever since. And surprisingly, it still runs. I did a video on this a while when my dad got it, back in around 2013 maybe. And it had just about 1,000 miles on it. And I did the valve cover gasket. And that was it. So it's all it's ever really had. It's a valve cover gasket and a carb adjustment. That's all it's ever had in its life for maintenance and oil changes. But this is a 2000, I want to say it's an 05 or an 06 Vento hot rod, quote unquote. This is a Chinese bike. It was sold through Vento. So Vento is an importer from a variety of manufacturers. And I forget who made this one, but it's definitely got a Chinese VIN number. Actually, the original manufacturer is on a data plate. Ah, here it is. It's made by Jialing. It's a Jialing. It's got a GY6 clone, 150cc motor, and it actually is fun to drive. I used to ride this thing. I just did a quick kind of once-over on this thing to check out what it might need. So it's here because I need. I was asked if I would do some maintenance on it. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I work cheap, so anyway, we're going to be doing a belt. That should be done, given the bike's age. We're going to probably pull the carburetor, clean it. It's never been done. And although it doesn't really need it that much, it runs pretty smoothly. But I'm going to do that anyway. I'm going to check out what else I might need to order. I've got to order a bunch of stuff. Namely a belt. It needs an exhaust gasket that's leaking. You can tell right off. Let's see. Start it up. Idle's a little high. That needs to be readjusted. Starts right up. Battery seems to be holding a charge. Impressively. Yeah, the idle's a little on the high side. We'll bring that down. So the idle goes down gradually, and that's at the point where you want to make your final adjustment. So it's a little on the high side right now. So it takes off like a rocket because the clutch is always partially engaged. Let's see. You can hear the exhaust is leaking right at the exhaust port. Let's check it from bulbs. Make sure all the bulbs work. Directionals. So the thing with these Chinese bikes is this. They really are an absolute gamble if you were to buy one new. Vento allegedly had better quality control standards, and they would pay the Chinese exporters more money for better products. That's what I've heard. I don't know how true that is. Brake fluid looks good. It probably should be changed though. What I'm going to do is suck out what's in that reservoir and put new fluid in there. The rear brake is way out of adjustment. Fix that. It should not be coming down this far. Oh, sounds like we have a bulb out. Yeah, we do. Directional. Let's take a look. Does this come off? Let's take a look at this bulb. The bulb isn't blown. Let's try reseating it. The price that I gave the guy is pretty low. It's just for a basic tune-up. So if I have to do anything more than that, I'll figure that out. There we go. Reseat the bulb. How about the rear? You can see it has a slight pull to it. It wants to take off. Gotta get that idle speed down. Horn works. It smells like it's running a little rich. It's running a little rich, so we'll get that carburetor cleaned up. You know what it is? The idle mixture, I think, is a little bit too rich, and that's a simple screw adjustment. We can fix that, no problem. Valve adjustment was done on this bike when my dad got rid of it, so that shouldn't be necessary at this point. It's only every like 12,000 miles, but it's only got 36, and it doesn't sound like the valves are happy. So happy meaning loose. They sound pretty tight to me. But everything looks pretty good. This thing has been down many times in its life. Before my dad got it, it was scraped up on one side, and then the guy who owns it now, he was run off the road, and y'all wonder why I won't ride bikes anymore. He was run off the road and took out the other side, but so far the bodywork is holding up. I mean, literally, this is the bike that they caution people not to buy, but it's pretty bulletproof. I mean, there's not much left to this bodywork. I mean, it's pretty toasty, but I mean, I have ridiculously high standards on my own bikes. I mean, everything has to be perfect, but this is a bike you can ride around in and not worry about. It's already scraped up. It goes pretty nice. Oh, air filter looks good. Pretty clean in there. No need to replace that. Just blow it out with the air compressor. A lot of seeds in there. Looks like somebody's been kind of using it for food storage. Oh well. Rear brakes look good. Need to do some adjustment to this linkage because that was a little bit too far out. Check this bearing here while we're in there. The bearing looks good. Nice and smooth. No signs of any leakage. Hey. And that should do it. Now, because the adjustment was so far, or this lever was mounted on the spline shaft so far in, I had to pull it off, take this lock nut knock bolt off, slide it off the splines just a little bit, and then it just kind of snapped into position where I want it to be. That's how you do it. The pads are well within spec, so we're going to leave those alone. Just put a little bit of grease on the splines and the axle, just to prevent the wheel from rusting on. A little bit will do. Put the wheel back on. The tire has to be deflated in order to remove or install it. Little pro tip there. Because it catches on the crankcase bosses here and here, as well as the oil filler. So I took the carburetor apart. It looks pretty good inside. I don't see any corrosion. It looks actually fantastic. Be a little bit of oxidization on the jets, but nothing unusual. They look pretty clean. Just took them out, cleaned them anyway. There's nothing really in there to speak of. The bowl has just a tiny amount of sediment, so it's all pretty good. Everything is in really good shape. This carburetor looks brand new. The thing I got to do is take the, this is the idle mixture screw. I got to pull that out and take a look, make sure that's clean. I heard it was having issues idling, so that's why the idle speed was so high. It was to compensate for that, but we'll try to correct that. Shouldn't be too bad. Even the seals are in good shape. This is a genuine Mikuni carburetor. It looks to be real, not a Chinese fake like you'd expect to see in one of these. It's also important when you pull the carburetor from one of these, check the intake for cracks. This one looks pretty good, which is surprising. considering its heritage, but no cracks. Especially check these vacuum lines for any cracking or signs of damage. Same with the fuel hose, because these are low quality lines. So, here's a problem. There's a vacuum leak right there. We'll fix that pretty easily. Look at this hose. Ooh. For this, I found a vacuum line that's possibly cracked, which could explain some problems, but I'm just going to cut the end of that off and use the hose over again. Squeeze the hoses like that. Look for any cracks like this. That's not good. So we'll fix that up. And what else do we have going on here? Where's the fuel hose? Here's the fuel hose. Cheap hose, but it'll work. Good stuff. Spark plug, we gotta pull that access cover off to get to that. We'll do that now. So far, so good. Alright, so at this point we've just put a new spark plug in it, and the original plug, it turns out it was likely the original plug, and see what it looked like. Definitely had to be done. So, pretty rough shape. Let me get a good macro shot of that. But look at that thing. Yeah, about every 4,000 miles these things should get new plugs. That's usually that's the standard on this size motor. If you're using copper plugs, which is what I used. So up next we've got to do an oil change, final drive oil change. I've got to order a belt, an exhaust gasket. Carburetor's been cleaned, reinstalled. Carburetor was in good shape. Very impressed with the condition of that carburetor. See, despite having such low miles, that means the scooter's been sitting quite often for extended periods of time, and that has an effect on both rubber components as well as the fuel system, because fuel just sitting around, well, let's just say it doesn't improve things. So looks like this thing had some stabilizer in it for many overwinter storage periods, so that's what saved the carburetor from basic destruction. But otherwise, it's all there. There's no damage or anything structural, just cosmetic work. Air filter's in beautiful condition. We'll be reusing that. No need to change that out. Yeah. Like I said earlier, one of the great things about a scooter like this is you can ride it around and not worry about someone scratching it or knocking it over. And as some of my European and Asian viewers may have caught on to, this is actually a copy of a Honda Joker. And not a bad looking one at that. You know, the quality is not up to what you'd expect from a genuine Honda product, but it also didn't cost genuine Honda prices when new. The fit and finish, I think, is really where it could use some improvements. But it has lasted this long. By the way, it is a 2011, not an 05 or 06. I did check the date of production. So there you go. And this is a truck my dad's working on. It just needs a minor tune-up, and then it'll be all set to go. But this is what you have to do to tune up a Ford. You gotta tear everything apart. You know, those of you who are watching from the south, this might not seem like any abnormal vehicle, but in this area, you know, the oldest trucks we have on the road right now are like 20, maybe 25 years old. And that's a big maybe, because yeah, they pretty much rust off the road by the time they're 15 years old. So this truck is, well, 34 years old. And it's not from around here. That's why it's still in such good condition. But I think I did some video footage of this when we were tearing it apart. This is pretty much, that was last summer, and haven't really made much progress. But all solid metal, except for a little bit of crustiness right there. He will finish it.